Welcome to the Louie Herron Podcast, where I'm going deep into business, sales, leadership, and life. And I mean life, from the boardroom to the bedroom, from business acquisitions to personal addictions, from being saved yet still feeling like a slave, from manning up to mousing out, dealing with divinity to reality. This podcast is dedicated to growth, learning, inspiration, and healing. Jump in, hang on, and hang out. You'll never know which topic I'll tackle next. But one thing's for certain, I'm here to share my experiences, strengths, failures, and hope, all to help us live life at the highest level we can. What's going on, man? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be actually listening to this podcast. This is Louie Herron, your host. Oh, man. Tell you, it's kind of crazy. Last time I had a podcast was Sales to CEO, which was a automotive driven podcast, strictly teaching folks how to climb the corporate ladder of the automobile industry. And so this time we've got a new concept here I want to bring to you. That's, you know what, I think it's really just near and dear to my heart. Just trying to be open and obviously this is a business, this is a sales, this is a leadership oriented podcast. That's who I am. It's what I know. At the same time, though, I think what has more value is really the life's lessons. And so intertwined in what I do, again, kind of like the opening, we'll talk about business acquisitions. We'll talk about, what do you do to drive sales and revenue, sales training, teaching, coaching. There's all kind of things, leadership, leading people in different environments. But I really, when it comes down to it, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody, right? So at the end of the day, to me, what holds the most value is to give the most value, and really by self-reflection and owning some of the things that I've done, right? I've failed a ton of times, right? I've succeeded a few times. And that's the beautiful part about being an entrepreneur, being in business. You only need one or two home runs, right? There's a lot of people that have been extremely successful, and the most successful, I believe, have failed the most often, right? Because if you're going for it more than most, you're going to fail more. I think I've definitely experienced that in my lifetime, and have a ton of stories I want to share with you along our journey together, and along that we, going through the podcast and working together. But I really wanted to really come up with a podcast that resonates with an audience that really wants to grow internally, not just externally. And the reason I say that is, honestly, I've put that show on my whole life. I've put that mask on my whole life, from my childhood all the way till I became a car dealer, right? There were some things that I did, almost facade-like, covering up, masking up, not owning up to things that internally were going on, that some I didn't even know were going on. Some I've stuffed them down so far, I didn't even know how to reach them. And some were intentional stuff downs, right? There are moments when I left my house, when I was a kid at 18 years old, never to return, and clearly, consciously remember saying, "Hey, I'm never going through that drama again. I'm not coming back." And quite honestly, I never went back home to reside. As an 18-year-old kid, boom, life began and the journey began. So I think for me, I'm looking for the audience. I want to share with folks that want to grow, in business, they want to grow in leadership, they want to grow in life, in personal development, they want to grow spiritually, they want to grow physically with their bodies, mentally. So many things from a mental capacity that we deal with, whether it's depression or whether it's anxiety or whether it's just fear or things that creep up. How do we deal with those things? Well, unfortunately, I can share with you a lot of things where it's gripped me. But the good news is, the great news is, I also believe I can share with you some of the things that I've overcome. And there's some things I'm still dealing with. I'm still working through. I still don't have them licked. I'm still not there yet. So again, I'm still in business. I'm still a sales guy at heart. I'm still a coach at heart. I'm a teacher at heart. I've led several successful companies over my years, and I've burned some companies to the ground. With either my own thinking, my own mindset, my own self sabotage. These are the things I kind of really want to get through, and that's really what this podcast is all about, right? The title is, "What is all this about?" Like, what are we starting? What are we embarking on? We're embarking on an opportunity of growth. We're embarking on an opportunity to get better, and through our interaction together, I think we can really accommodate that. Look, I can share with you. I've been married twice, been divorced twice. I've had struggles with alcohol. I've been in rehab twice, right? For me personally, you're talking about a guy that's been in business for 30 years and has spent the majority of his life highly successful, no habits, no drug use, nothing crazy. But it just shows you that if you let things get out of round and the house is not built on a firm foundation, it's crumbling, right? Any storm that comes through, it's going to blow the house down, right? And I think the good books talks about that in some scripture. I don't have verse and chapter for you, but I know that to be true. I know that if we're not on a firm foundation, we're not anchored to something that we believe in. And I've experienced it where I did believe in something that I was anchored to. My life succeeded at a pretty good level. And there's many moments where I was not anchored, and that boat just got tossed and flipped and boom and just and totally dismantled. Right. So I mean, again, I've got some things to go through that I think will have a great benefit. I've got 6 kids. All 6 of the children I'm currently rebuilding relationships with. Still working through that, literally to date. I mean, I've spoken on stages. I've authored a book. I've coached middle school football. I've coached flag football with both my children. Um, I've bought and sold 3 dealerships and currently have my own automotive business. What's the point? What's the point? Point is expansion. I ask myself and I ask you 2 very, very important questions. Expansion. You just got to get fucking better, right? I just got to get better. Every day I got to get better. I got to progress. So the question I have for you, and again the question I pose to you, I ask to myself, who are you? Like literally, like if you lost everything and you're standing butt ass naked in a desert, you have nothing but you. Who are you? Now, don't give me your stats. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a business owner. I'm a car guy. I sell real estate. I don't want the stats. That's not who you are. It's what you do. 2 different things. Who are you at the core? The values. You are who you believe yourself to be. Think about that for a moment. You are who you believe yourself to be. The story that you most tell yourself is who you are in your body, in your relationships, in your spirituality, in your business. What are the stories that you hold true about yourself? I can tell you the stories I hold true. What are the stories you hold true? Think about your body as a great example. What are the stories you hold about your body? Who you are physically, who you are mentally, who you are habitually. What are those stories in your relationships, in your marriages? What are the stories? Your business. You operate it every day. You work in it every day. You're in a sales job every day. Whatever you may do. What are the stories you tell yourself? Because you are who you believe yourself to be. Now, I will tell you, there are times where I have stories about myself and I believe myself to be powerful, to have perspective, right? To have purpose. Those are moments and times where I'm rolling, I'm ripping, I'm running. But again, go back to the foundation. If my foundation's weak and it's not anchored to something true, guess what happens? The first circumstance, the first storm, which I've experienced many, take the house down, man. Take it down. So the stories, right? I believe the purpose of life is expansion, not perfection. But not being perfect is not an excuse for me or you or anyone to not to continue to expand, right? I would say that to myself all the time. Well, I'm not perfect. I get into an argument with my wife. Well, I'm not perfect. You expect again when I'm being challenged on being better, making better choices, expanding. What is my story? What would I say to myself immediately? It would be some story doesn't support the outcome that I'm looking for. And in that moment, I believe myself to who I am at that moment. Who are you? It's a question I pose to you. Authentic growth without allowing others to influence who you are. Think about the challenge of being authentically you without the concern of somebody else judging you, criticizing you, or if you're like me, they may not like me. They may not accept me. Where's that rooted from? Where'd that come from? Well, I can tell you that came from, early on as a kid. And that stuff has to be worked through. Otherwise, it resonates with me as an adult, as a 49-year-old adult, nearly 50 years old. I got stuff that still rears its head up at me. That's the first question I asked. Who are you? Second question, where are you at? Now, I don't mean physically, like you're in a car listening to the podcast, or you're at home, or you're at the gym, or you're not physically. Where are you at? Where are you at mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally? The gap between where you could be, the potential, right? The highest optimal potential of you mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, relationally, that gap, that gap is where successful living takes place. That's the gap that I'm like fervently working on the daily, and don't succeed at the levels that I want to. But I got to continue to focus on expansion, right? So again, an assessment has to take place within ourselves, right? And sometimes it's physical assessment. Even if you rated these on a scale of 1 to 10 mentally, where would you find yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? 10, you're cranking it out. You're freaking strong as death. You're on point. 1, not so much. Give yourself a 4. Spiritually, your beliefs. Who are you? What do you want to become? How important is God in your life? Who is God? What is God? Scale of 1 to 10. Physically, my body, good shape, not in good shape. Exercise, don't exercise. Eat right, don't eat right. Right? These are the things we just take a moment to, assess. Where are you at? You take 4 categories, 5 categories, the top being 10, that's 50 possible points. You score out at a 27, you're 52%. You're 52%, and the gap is 48% to your full potential. These are some of the things that I think, even in full transparency, guys, I have to ask myself this annually, monthly, sometimes daily. Legitimately, sometimes I'm off the path daily. These are the things to consider, again, when you're looking at, again, who you are and where are you currently at. But here's where I struggle, at least in the past. Expansion and growth can be exhausting. Why? Why would expanding and getting better be exhausting? Well, it requires a couple of things. Number one, it requires honesty, which I've struggled with personally. Not honest with myself, not honest with others. Small things, little things, big things, tons of things. Why? Again, where's it rooted? Where's it coming from? Again, expansion and growth takes honesty. It takes work. You got to work on you, right? They call it the shadow self, the other side of you, that the little devil on one side and the angel on the other, right? We got to put that work in, right? That requires therapy, humility, discipline, consistency, better choices, new habits. All of these things are requirements for expansion, and it can be exhausting. But you got to have the capacity to understand, and the capacity comes from the container. What's the container, right? The container is what you have to shift, and that's what gets bigger. Your container gets bigger, your belief system gets bigger, new stories are developed. What's a container? Some of us operate with a jar. Our container is only as big as a jar. A jar can only hold so much. Then we broaden our container to a trash can. Gets a little bigger. Then it goes to a dumpster. Now all of a sudden we can hold a ton of stuff, right? Each new container holds more and more room to understand. What's understanding is having the capacity to be able to expand. To expand what? Your body, your being, your relationships, your business, your bank account, right? Let me conclude. And, I will definitely share relevant content about business, sales, leadership, but it always comes down to life experience and personal growth for me. That's my DNA. That's my core. That's really what I love to teach, coach, train, and work. Again, it's my burden. It's my burden with Louie, like with myself. Like I've got to ask myself, how can I grow? How can I get a bigger container? How can I reach the capacity of understanding or work through the things that I've got to work through? These are the things that, again, I want to share through business, through sales, through training, through leadership. These are the things that I think are extremely important, again, in growing personal. So again, if you've connected with what I've shared with you here, um, you know, and you want to join me on this weekly journey, do me a huge favor of reciprocity. Share this podcast with somebody. I mean, you can comment below, but honestly, if you feel like some of the things we briefly touched on today just kind of share and resonate with you, you know, Share it with somebody. Again, when we expand ourselves and expand to others, giving new information to help others grow, that's really where it's at. And again, what I want to talk about as I conclude is basically just telling you, what is this all about? I want to share with you my heart, my passion of my own personal journey, my own personal growth to help you get to new levels in your business, in your personal life, in the things that matter most to you. I'll leave you with this last thought. When I was 28 years old, I made the decision to buy a car dealership. At the time, I had been 8 years in the dealership world. I went from a salesperson to general manager at this time. I went on to buy into my first dealership 4 short years after that. What's the point? I had no idea how, nor did I have the resources at the time that I made the I decided to make a change. I wanted something. If the dream is big enough, sometimes the facts really don't matter. When you want something bad enough, the why is big enough, the how will often show up. Let me read that one last time. If the dream is big enough, sometimes the facts don't matter. When you want something bad enough and the why is big enough, the how will often show up. Gang, until next time, focus on expansion, enlarge your container, and keep moving forward.